In this video, I'll talk about monthly checks for everyone in light of a recent announcement in this particular state. You may watch the video to get all the specifics and why this is such a huge thing. First of all, let's talk about what's going on. I sincerely appreciate you liking and sharing this video using the buttons below. Thank you very much for your continued support. If you haven't already, go down there. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to the channel as well. It's completely free to do so by clicking the large subscribe button directly below. Once more, I would want to express my gratitude for your support. Let's discuss what's going on here, and I would like to bring this to your attention, even if it was been launched in one of the states. However, this is significant because it is the first program of its kind in the country. But hold on, Matt, you mentioned universal basic income, a basic income that is assured monthly drafts, continuous inspections, regular checks. Yes, I do discuss those kinds of programs frequently, but how could this possibly be the first of its kind? Many programs on a regular basis, and I do draw your attention to those since they are being carried out nationwide, and legislation is in place to put these, into effect nationwide as well. Solely at the state level, but this is rather different because every other program we discuss is Guaranteed Basic Income, or GBI Guaranteed Basic Income schemes. Here's the distinction, though. The difference is that this state will now forward the proposal to voters later in the year. It will be a universal basic income program. All right, this is a big issue. I want to immediately draw attention to this now. I want to talk about this quickly because this is the state I'm talking about, but I'll tell you about it in a moment. First of its type, so don't worry if you're not in the state I'm discussing in this video. It's okay. That isn't really the point, though. Instead, let's examine the larger image. This is the introduction of universal basic income. What I'm trying to say is that while guaranteed basic income schemes are fantastic, they focus a lot on particular populations or groups. Don't misunderstand me, are fantastic and greatly beneficial, but you might not be eligible for universal basic income unless you fit into the extremely limited category of people who are truly qualified for them. The idea is that it doesn't matter at all what the specifics are. Literally, if you're there, you win. The only distinction between guaranteed basic income and universal basic income is GBI. Guaranteed basic income targeted at a select few who, as you are aware, must meet specific requirements. It makes logical that everyone is covered by universal basic income, thus I'd want to present this to you. Your attention because, as I mentioned, this is the first of its kind in the nation and has never been witnessed in the United States, so this is big deal, okay? First stop, a couple days ago, I was discussing this in a different live stream. There was a lot of uncertainty at that live stream and people were joining from all over the place, down below. In the chat section, I would say, watch the first 10 or so minutes of that video now again, that was in my state. What about my city? What about my, situation? The real-time broadcast, I wanted to revisit this topic and give a brief explanation in this video, as I noticed that people kept coming back. Alright, so the main idea is that everyone should have access to universal basic income. In this state, I would receive this payment if voters approve it this autumn. I have a feeling that this fall, when it comes down to the voters who get to make the final choice, so allow me to describe the situation before providing the specifics. It would be wise for you to stay put and listen to the information that follows when I disclose the state. But I already know that as soon as I mention the name of the state, if you're not from there, you're going to stop watching this video immediately. Perfectly all right. Whatever happens, the misunderstanding will persist, and that's okay. I suppose I'll return and create 50 more videos discussing it, going over every aspect once more. I have no trouble creating videos. That being said, the state in question is Oregon, and they will be presenting a petition that has thousands more signatures than they actually require to complete this task. To electors, voters in Oregon will decide whether to implement a universal basic income program in your state this autumn. That sounds fairly amazing, so let me explain the specifics. No, I should add that each and every Oregonian will receive a one-time yearly payment in the amount of $750. When I say every resident, I mean it literally. Every resident of Oregon would be eligible to receive this one-time payment, Or perhaps I should say one annual payment, which is the distinction between guaranteed basic income and universal basic income. You receive one check from the state of Oregon each year, which is going to be for $750. That's $150 once a year. All right, so how do you acquire this money? Might obtain it in a few different ways. Firstly, you have the option of paying with cash, which entails receiving a payer check or a direct transfer, depending on what they want to do. I didn't see that detail, but they stated that they would like to receive a payment of $700 in cash. That's fantastic, but option number 2 would essentially be a refund on your tax return. Let me give you a quick example. Let's say that you live in the state of Oregon and you think, uh-oh, this is not going to be a good day. I owe $1,000 to my state in state income taxes or state taxes, so you file your tax return. Condition is not a cool circumstance. Indeed, in that scenario, it might be applied as a credit to your refund, or in this instance, as a credit to your tax due, meaning that you owe the state $10,000. Apply the $700, owe $750, which is essentially the UBI payment, as a tax credit. As a result, instead of owing them $1,000, you now owe them $250. This is the alternative. All right, so these are the two choices that, well, they essentially identified as indicating these are the methods by which you could obtain that $750 once more. I want to stress that this is a one-time payment made once a year rather than on a monthly basis. Yearly payment of $750. Now allow me to provide you with a little example. Every year, the state of Alaska distributes its yearly dividend money, which varies, but every Alaskan citizen does sort of the same program, which I wouldn't refer to as a universal basic income program in Alaska because the state's motivations differ, is something that Alaskans also receive, right to receive an annual dividend payment? Okay, so you might be wondering, what is the official name of the oil dividend payment? Well, that's the example I wanted to give you quickly. I live in Oregon. How are they going to pay for this? Are they going to tax me to the death to acquire this money? Well, sort of, but let me explain. You know how they're going to get it, okay? They're going to go after the companies. They're going to impose a 3% tax on corporations with sales of $25 million or more. However, I want to make it clear that anyone with a brain can figure this out very fast. It's not that difficult to figure out that when firms pay higher taxes, they increase their rates. And since that's how things always work out in the end, the people who will ultimately pay for this are the customers. Allow me to offer you another quick example. For instance, California only introduced this new $20 per hour fast food policy a few months ago, I believe. I'm not sure when it started, maybe May 1st or something. The minimum wage is great, and fast food restaurant employees are now making a lot more money, $20 per hour. But who is really paying for that? The customer is fine, as I mentioned earlier, as long as anybody has. This is not that difficult for a brain to figure out. It's just simple margins. It's a straightforward business. In order to cover increased costs, the company must increase pricing. Preserve their margins and keep the lights on. It seems like some people are unable to understand this, but it is the reality and the precise method by which they will make the $750 annual payment in the state of Oregon as well. Basically, what they're going to do is levy corporations and ask them to pay an additional 3% tax, which will eventually trickle down to the customer because the firms will have to hike their prices since they can't possibly take the additional 3% charge on top of that. So in the end, even though Oregonians and customers will be footing the bill, you'll still obtain that $750 one time. That works out to be one payment each year, which is acceptable. I want to stress that because it's not a monthly payment. Rather, it's a yearly payment. But to cut a long tale short, this would apply to every single Oregonian. It wouldn't be the case that say, well, it's just the middle class, it's just this population, or, oh, it's just the low-income people. This is not that every Oregonian would be qualified regardless of wealth. That is the distinction between guaranteed basic income and universal basic income, just this one city. A guaranteed minimum wage only makes payments dispersing funds to particular groups of individuals according to their income, location, and demographics, among other factors. For example, The difference with the GBI is that everyone receives universal basic income. So the person who, has no income, and that individual is going to receive the same $750 payment as the guy down the street making $10 million, irrespective if they are living with friends and family or are even homeless.